Hello, we're live.
We're live.
Am I live, Shelley?
I think you're live, yes. But
Wonderful.
I always see you live, so we are live. I
We
see
are
it.
definitely
Yeah.
live. I'm sorry to say Mac Ganezda will be joining us in just a moment. It's don't worry. He'll be here. We don't have much of a staff, so he's running he was the one who turned it on.
Yeah.
Here he is.
Matt Ganezda, producer / studio tech
Yeah.
slash guy in a very dapper suit.
Very dapper.
I also clean the bathrooms.
Whoa. Hey, so this is I'm very excited to actually be live with you guys. We haven't done a live stream in like a year and a half. And we're here to promote this great new project we're working on, the China Uncensored digital Hong Kong Lenin Wall. So if you remember, it's been 5 years since the massive protests in Hong Kong, 2019. We were there. We'll share some of our stories about that experience. But one of the things the protesters did was they had a Lenin wall. And this is like Lenin, like John Lennon, not Vladimir Lenin. And like the Lenin wall, it's like you put up little Post-it notes everywhere. It's very colorful and bright, and you write little messages. There was a bunch of these in Hong Kong. They popped up all over the world in solidarity and support. But when the Hong Kong police eventually cracked down very hard, all of those got torn down. And so 5 years later, we're trying to we started this digital one, so anyone anywhere in the world can write a little message on a digital Post-it note, some words of support for the people of Hong Kong. And we worked with a team of security experts, so IPs aren't tracked. There's no cookies, no matter how much milk you throw at your screen. It doesn't track personal information, so it's very safe and secure. Shelley is going to post it into the chat right now, but I will spell it out for you with my mouth. It's hkleninwall.com, and Lenin again is Lennon.
And for those of you wondering why it's named after John Lennon,
They can imagine. I'm live.
that is funny. And I mean, of course, that song is known by many of our viewers to be a sort of weird vision of a communist utopia that is actually kind of awful. But
Yes, I hate that song.
the reason for that, the name, is that John Lennon was killed in 81, I think. And then anti-communist protesters in Prague at the time, which was in part of the Soviet Union, protested, and they like painted an image of John Lennon on this wall, and then that wall became a place where people posted various anti-communist.
Anti-communists had a
Yeah.
picture of Lenin.
They called it the Lennon Wall. I don't know. I mean,
I tell you,
it's just not what you imagined it to be. But that
I
was
see what you did.
Oh,
I see what you did.
Nice.
that was the origin of the Lennon Wall. And then in 2014, Hong Kongers adopted that idea, but they did it instead of painting, they did it with sticky notes like Post-its and flyers, and they stuck them up on the wall of the stairway going up to the Hong Kong government building. And it became a big thing, and it was repeated in 2019. And they, as you said, they're all over the world.
That's right. Real quick, we'll be answering your questions as well throughout the course of the night, but I just saw we got a wonderful $20 super chat or super thanks. I don't know what YouTube calls it, from Aja. He says, serious inquiry, safety razors or aloe strip triple edge. I have a beard. That I'm not the person to ask. I'm sorry. Thank you for the $20. Don't shave. That's my advice.
What do you use for your beard? I think the people want to know.
Not a razor. It just it says it stays like this perfectly.
You don't need to trim your beard.
Saiyan warrior, my hair grows just perfectly all the time.
It's like that for me too, but my hair only grows in the mustache pattern.
You mean your mustache?
Yes. Okay, Matt. Safety razors or aloe strip triple edge.
I use a safety razor. Yeah,
you're learning so much about us on this live. This is wonderful.
I don't know how people used to shave with straight razors. That seems terrifying to me.
It's not all Sweeney Todd, let me tell
I got a shave one time just for the heck of it from a barber,
you.
and she used a straight razor, and I was like kind of terrified the whole time.
Did it cost you 2 bits?
Uh, times about 100. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I also tonight we have a list of some of our favorite posts that have gone up so far. Our goal is by the end of the month, end of June, to have 10,000 posts. We're already doing pretty well right now. We're sitting comfortably at around to 5,700, but that's not 10,000. You guys watching, you gotta start signing up. Shelly, post the link again. People need to know.
Okay, this is what I'm here for. I'm link post monkey tonight. Um, yeah, but and if you've already posted, see if you can get a friend or a family member to post too.
Yeah, ideally we want unique posts, not 10,000 post-it notes from Matt.
Yes.
That would be less good. Also, a big shout out to the Hong Kong Democracy Council, whom we partnered with. We also used a great Hong Kong artist to do all of the artwork
Who
on the
shall
page.
remain anonymous.
Yes, thank you. I almost gave his home address. Uh, but speaking of, like the story just broke about like Chinese agents going after, like trying to track down Drew Pavlou and Vicky Xu in Australia.
I mean, I think it wasn't news to them, but I
Well,
think they
no,
came
like
out with went public with that, right?
yeah. The idea was that they were told by Australian police about 10 months ago that this was going on. And this gives you the idea what the CCP is doing to track people that they don't like. But because it didn't seem like the Australian police were doing anything or doing enough, they decided to come forward and tell the story. Because I think the police had told them, now don't tell any, like they were like tracking trying to get Drew's like home address, and he lives with his mom, and they were like, don't tell your mom.
Don't tell your mom. Yeah, that sounds great.
And so like yeah, there was this fear about coming out with this news, but after 10 months they decided to speak out to it. So thank you for joining us in fighting this kind of evil that would do something like that. But let's start off now by reading one of our top one of our favorite post-its on the line wall. Let's see. Pick one at random, Shelley.
All right, this one's pretty nice. Gaio, Hong Kong, my spiritual second home. Keep the Lion Rock spirit.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Gaio, that's like
Add oil.
Cantonese for Jiayo.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I probably pronounced it wrong. Sorry, I don't really speak Cantonese.
speaking of Lion Rock, so that's actually the illustration we have on the Lenin Wall homepage is
Which I will
Lion
post
Rock,
right
where
again.
where it says Hong Kong Lenin Wall, and then in Chinese above it it says Hong Kong Yangayo, which is like
Oh, that
Chinese for
Cantonese came out smooth, Matt.
uh it sounds like that if you don't actually speak Cantonese, yeah.
Hey, I've watched a lot of Stephen Chow movies. You've never seen Kung Fu Hustle or Shaolin Soccer. We need to do
I
a China Uncensored live view night where we all watch Kung Fu Hustle.
You, me, Matt, and 300 people watching Kung Fu
Yeah,
Hustle.
yeah. Oh, and this is the question: do you like us live? We could do more lives. Most of the time, we are alive.
Most of the time.
um I was actually going to ask Shelley to if you could maybe explain the spiritual significance of Lion Rock as it pertains to the Hong Kong protests.
Asked me to explain it. Well, I mean, I think Lion Rock spirit is something that Hong Kongers, it doesn't just relate to the protests, but like the idea of Hong Kong, and like there's this phrase about Lion Rock spirit. It's like people who came to Hong Kong kind of like made it here, including the people who literally fled from the communists in the 50s and the 60s. Like people were swimming across from mainland China to Hong Kong, and like it wasn't easy in Hong Kong at the time. Like Hong Kong wasn't a super prosperous place. It was a little more prosperous than what was happening under Mao, right? Like terrible famines and things like that. But people started off like really at the bottom, and then they kind of survived through what they call Lion Rock spirit. So that's kind of reaches back to like Hong Kong people like really feel close to that. So when the protests were happening in 2019, people were like hiked up to the top of Lion Rock and like unfurled these like giant banners supporting the protests, that kind of stuff. So it was really, it means a lot to them. Yeah.
And I think what's important to remember is that even with the national security law that the Chinese Communist Party forced on Hong Kong, and then the year they spent purging pro democracy politicians and legislatives, so that the words I'm trying to think of, what they took
Basically,
over.
yeah, there's no pro democracy anything in Hong Kong anymore.
Yeah, to the extent that then just recently they passed themselves Article 23, which is basically the same thing as national security law, just passed by Hong Kongers. So it's like, it's what the Hong Kong people want. But yeah, despite all that, that Lion Rock spirit is still very much alive in Hong Kong, and people, oh gosh, most of the people we knew from Hong Kong are either in exile or in jail. There was a lot of people who were arrested. What was the number? Like, we looked that up recently.
It's like 1,800.
There's more than 1,800 political prisoners in Hong Kong right
That's
now.
huge.
So
It's
it
so
is
many people.
really. I actually was shocked because I hadn't realized it had gone. And I think the youngest person who had been arrested for the protest is 11. The youngest person who's been sentenced, I believe, is 12, according to the Hong Kong Democracy Council. So yeah,
It's insane.
it is really insane.
It's insane. But I think, I mean, we were there. It was 2 years ago from Sunday.
5 years ago.
Yes,
Chris.
5 years ago from Sunday. That's
What is time, Chris?
what is time. And yeah, I mean, there were 2 million people. That's where I got the two from. There were
Okay.
2 million people on the streets in a city of only 7 million people. So this did not go away just because the CCP told everyone to stop being pro-democracy. It's still there. It's still latent. And I think that's why the Chinese Communist Party is so terrified, because they know they don't have the hearts and minds of the Hong Kong people.
Yeah, I think the thing about the things like this Hong Kong Lennon Wall, this digital Lennon Wall, some people might feel like, well, what good does it do to post it on a website, right? But this is symbolically very powerful, and it's something that the CCP is afraid of. Like the CCP understands the power of symbols. They really try to use symbols themselves, right? And they also like things like the panda bear for soft power. They're like obsessed with the idea of having this soft power and influencing the world, but they're also really afraid of things like on the anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre, June 4th, like they banned people from posting candle emojis on Chinese social media, right? Like it's just a candle emoji, but because that represents a candlelight vigil, which Hong Kong was the only place in China where you could have a candlelight vigil up until 2020, and that's not allowed anymore. But so they really care about symbols. So somebody going to Hong Kong, opening a yellow umbrella, which is the symbol of the protest in 2014, if they held a candle up, they could probably be arrested. That's what is happening now. People holding blank pieces of paper were arrested right after the national security law went into effect. So
recently there was the Hong Kong artist who, like, in the air signed the date for the Tiananmen Square massacre and was arrested. So that's how bad it is.
Yeah.
But so that's why Hong Kongers being able to see that they have not been forgotten, that wasn't just some passing craze in the media for a little bit. That there are people who actually care and paying attention. It means a lot to them. It terrifies the CCP.
I have just learned from our tech team that our site has now been blocked by China's Great Firewall.
Couldn't have done it without you.
I mean, I would love if that we got enough people to post on the site that we got like a nasty article written about it from China Daily or Global Times.
I know it's been a few years since they wrote about us, calling China Uncensored disgraceful anti-China garbage, which made me so happy. But I wouldn't mind it happening again. Hostile foreign forces, China Uncensored, create insidious Lenin Wall.
And we're also instigating people to participate in anti-CCP behavior.
You are being instigated right now by us.
And we're instigating you to tell at least 2 family, friends, or colleagues to post and encourage them to also instigate 2 others, and we can have a massive duplication of instigation.
You just posted the link again, Shelley?
I did just post the
Great.
link again.
Trying to get 10,000 by the end of the month. This is like a PBS fundraiser, except
we're not making money.
We're not making money. We are far more noble than even the noblest of PBSers. BSers. Whoops.
We are losing money on this.
Yes. So a
I don't
big
know if I'd call it losing
Well, we
money.
are
We're
spending money.
spending a lot of money, and most of the money actually went to the technical part. It's just like making sure that it was a secure site for keeping the people who posted stuff completely anonymous. But I mean, this is from my perspective, it's an investment in Hong Kongers and in Hong Kong's future and in exposing what the CCP is doing to people.
yeah.
And
And
so, what else are we going to do with the money?
well, most importantly, like this is all thanks to the support of uh the 50 Cent Army, the China Uncensored 50 Cent Army. You guys who watch, who contribute on either patreon.com/China Uncensored, Shelly posted, or ChinaUncensored.locals.com. Like the kind of support you guys give isn't just to keep the lights on with the show. It helps us do projects like this. So this is largely thanks to those guys, their help. So thank you very much to all the patrons of this show.
And speaking of which, we have a couple super
Yeah,
chat
super chat.
questions,
So
and one is Chris. This is from Hung Tran. Chris, which actor has done the best Wong Fei Hung movie?
right now, I think Jet Li.
Once Upon a Time in China.
Trying to think. I mean, yeah, I'll go with that. That's what I'm going with. I'll stick with it. And now there's another one
From
from
from not
not Bob's.
Bob Saget. In a World War III situation, do you see many of the Chinese citizens revolting against the CCP? Love the show. God bless each of you, and thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think already we see a lot of people revolting against the CCP. I mean, outside of just the zero COVID protests that we saw, uh, what was the number? But like every year there are mass movements in China. I think the CCP used to like report those numbers, but kind of stopped. So there's just already huge dissatisfaction with the Chinese Communist Party. There's a lot of poverty in China. The whole lay flat movement, let it rot. This is all people showing their dissatisfaction with the CCP. So if it ever came to like an actual conflict, I'm sure the CCP would also not have the hearts and minds of the Chinese people.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of reasons for that, and one is that because China imports a lot of food during a war, they may not be able to import enough, which could lead to serious starvation problems or just people finding food to be too expensive. And another thing is if the CCP does what it did in the Korean War, which is basically just send wave after human wave of troops to be slaughtered, uh, people in China are going to be really upset because unlike in the 50s, today most people of fighting age and their parents are of the one child generation. So like one young man, 18 years old, is responsible for the future of two parents and four grandparents and carrying on that whole bloodline. And so if you start to see across China, you know, millions of bloodlines just being completely cut off, and like the grandparents and parents are going to be like, who's going to support me in the future when I get old? So it's more of a problem now because of the previous problem the CCP created, which is the one child policy, and that compounds the impact on Chinese people during a war.
Yeah, and I think what's also interesting is those human wave tactics. I believe I've heard that a lot of those people sent to the front lines for slaughter were KMT troops that had surrendered earlier, or people that were part of black classes and whatnot.
They're gonna like conscript Uyghurs and Falun Gong and Tibetans to like make them fight.
Or Hong
Who
Kongers.
knows? Yeah.
Yeah. We got a few more super chats. Theophrastus 3.0. I think I nailed that name. It says, visited Hong Kong when it was free and vibrant city. I support one China, and that's Taiwan. CCP and Xi are now just fascist. Yeah, that is absolutely true. Thank you very much. Wes Downer, good to see you. A lot of these names I see you guys on the other channel, Gamers Unbeaten, our new gaming channel where we do live streaming. And a little plug tomorrow, we're all going to be streaming on Gamers Unbeaten the Elden Ring Shadows of the Erdtree DLC. I'm very excited for that. In fact, if there's only a few more hours till midnight until it comes out, and then I got to be up all night playing. What's happening? What I missed? Oh yeah, West Downer. You said why no memberships? You guys need Dell laptops. I assume you mean no channel memberships. The reason we don't have channel memberships on China Uncensored or America Uncovered is because we did not want to tie that much of our revenue to the whims of YouTube, which has not been YouTube and Google, which have not been very kind to us. That's why. Oh wow, they're coming in fast. Remagnus.
Remagnus?
Chris, it's important to slight the Chinese Communist Party by only recognizing the Republic
Is it
of China.
important?
Oh, is it? Is the only legitimate government of the mainland? I got to be over the mic. The KMT would better govern the mainland than the CCP. Well, the KMT is not the sole power of Taiwan anymore. I mean, I think that is an interesting idea. Well, the idea that these are two governments both claiming to actually control the whole shebang is kind of outdated. I mean, the CCP loves that idea. But I don't know if legitimately the people of Taiwan want to also be governing mainland China. I think what's more likely is when the CCP collapses, the people of mainland China will probably look to Taiwan and the advice they can give in constructing a free society in mainland China rather than it being who's ever the president of Taiwan becoming the president of China. That's my take. Grateful Dead, $5. Happy 620 to you, bud. I know you don't touch the Lord's lettuce, but I hope you have what's the Lord's lettuce?
If you don't know, Chris, I'm not going to tell you.
Okay.
I mean, their name is the Grateful Dead.
Oh. I read about a saint who apparently only ate lettuce.
Okay, I think that's probably not what they mean, but all right.
You want to read? What do you want?
Okay, well, so somebody had given to the super chat before this even started, so I had just saved that screenshot so he wouldn't lose it.
Macaroni ball sounds good. Who gave €2? Thank you. What would make the CCP change plans on Taiwan? I think that really would be determined by the international response. Like if the world shows strong support for Taiwan, and if the situation inside mainland China is too unstable, I don't think they will risk it.
It's basically whatever the CCP says along the lines of, if you do this, then we'll invade Taiwan. The world should do those things because that's exactly what will stop the CCP from invading Taiwan. Like, don't form an Asian NATO. Don't stand up for Taiwan in the South China Sea slash West Taiwan Sea or whatever, right? Don't criticize the CCP or Xi Jinping. Do lots of trade with China, like all those things. Just do the opposite of what they're telling you, and that will prevent the war. Because if you appease them, I mean, it's just like history, guys.
It's just like history, guys.
Do you remember that protest we went to in Hong Kong in September of 2019? That was basically they had a giant banner that was Chamberlain shaking hands with Hitler. Do you remember this? This is
I
the
remember that Lockhart Road.
yeah. So it was like essentially it was like one of the explicitly anti-CCP protests in Hong Kong. It was basically about how the world should not appease the CCP because look what happened the last time the world decided to appease an authoritarian regime. Yeah. So
They literally invaded Poland.
yeah, so the Hong Kong people knew what would likely happen to them, right? They just were hoping that the world would kind of wake up to it before it was too late.
And I mean, I think that there were some good responses to the Hong Kong situation. I know the U.S. put some pretty stringent sanctions on Hong Kong, including Carrie Lam, the chief executive at the time. Like she was basically cut off from the international banking system and had to be paid in just piles of cash. But yeah, the fundamental problem is the Chinese Communist Party. Until something happens with that, Hong Kong won't be free. Manny Hyla gave €5. Thank you. What is the relationship between CCP and Vietnam and between CCP and Kim Dynasty of North Korea? Well, Vietnam is an interesting. Well, so for North Korea, Largely, it depends on China for its existence. Vietnam, though, they kind of hate each other. I mean, I think there's to an extent the
Well,
Korean communists also hate each other,
I think with
but
Vietnam, they fought a war,
and
right?
they
So,
fought a war. Yeah,
yeah, so they're not friends. And they also have competing claims in the South China Sea, being that China claims all of it. And, Vietnam, like the Philippines and other countries, they have actual exclusive economic zones. They have territorial waters there, unlike the CCP, which wants to claim it, but they don't actually have any legitimate claim to it. So there's a lot of friction there as well.
yeah. I was just thinking when we were in Hong Kong for the protests, we had to have gas masks and all these hard hats on because it really was kind of dangerous actually. And
Yeah.
and like lots of tear gas, lots of pepper spray in there. And then I remember that first night, like we got back to our hotel, and like you guys were fine, but I was like a complete wreck. And then that's when, and like I didn't know what was going on until people started who knew better than me started telling me that like, well, you can't have a beard
Yeah, it was
with a
ruining the
gas mask.
seal of your respirator.
So
I
I
think it
had
was
been breathing
actually
tear
people
gas the whole time.
it was people on the live chat because we did a lot of live streams in Hong Kong.
Yeah,
That was
that's right.
probably
That's
the
right.
time when we did the most live streams was when we were covering the protests. So we're trying to do live streams and run from the police at the same time. It was a lot of fun.
It stretched our
Um,
capabilities.
so yeah, I remember people on the live chat were the ones being like, "You can't, like, you need something that seals." And then you shaved your
I
beard.
shaved my beard.
You made a big sacrifice.
It's truly I made the biggest sacrifice. But don't worry, my beard grew back stronger and more robust than ever. CCP can't keep it down. Amen. Taylor Hadley says, speaking of, I saw Chris taking a swipe at hair weave and wig wearers yesterday on China Uncensored.
Did you take a swipe?
I don't remember. Also, because I am like further in the production
Oh,
schedule.
right.
So I've recorded like a bunch of episodes that have not come out yet.
Yeah. So Chris is like 3 episodes in the future.
That's right. I
Um,
exist on different time planes.
Yes, exactly. You're like the uh what's this, the Doc in Back to the Future. You don't know where you are in the continuum, right?
I like that.
Yeah.
That was a good movie. All right. Dexter's Lure Lab. Good to see you here. He's another Gamers Unbeaten fella. Is there a Chinese Muhammad that has taken the Arab Muhammad hostage? I don't understand this question. People are saying they can hear Arab. I don't know what this is about.
I know the emotional damage um reference is to that guy who did the emotional damage thing that became a meme, but I also am kind of puzzled.
Well, thank you for the
Yeah.
contribution.
But it does remind me of how in the 19th century there was a Chinese man who claimed to be the brother of Jesus Christ.
That's right.
And
Hong Xiu Chuan.
and the effect of that was that he basically started the Taiping Rebellion that cost like 30 million lives.
I think it was 20 million,
Oh,
which is still like the
that's
biggest human uprising in history.
yeah.
And like he conquered the southern capital of China.
Yeah, and ultimately that was one of the big factors that led to the fall of that dynasty.
Yeah, and it was like an interesting like question at the time of like, oh, how would Western powers respond to this? Would they support the imperial Qing dynasty or would they support a insane Christian heresy? Because it's Christian, at least in some way. They did not support crazy younger brother of Jesus guy. But this was all happening at the same time as the Civil War in the US, and so we don't tend to learn about it very much. But there's a great book about it called God's Chinese Son by Jonathan Spence, who is my favorite historical author about China. I highly recommend any of his books. That one was very particularly interesting, though.
I haven't seen anything about a Chinese Muhammad though,
No.
and I probably won't see a picture of him either.
Ah, there you go. By the way, if you haven't yet signed the Hong Kong Lenin Wall, Shelley's posting the link right now. hkleninwall.com. Goal is to get 10,000 by the end of the month. If you've already signed it, get friends and family. Surely you have some friends. You pathetic little. No, no. Yeah, get people to sign. Yeah, shall I take it away?
This is not a super chat, but I just saw Shroopy Noopers. Hello, I enjoyed the China Unscripted episodes where the guests cancel. Love the
Oh
guests and
yeah,
how they vary in expertise, but I love the off the rails discussion of video games, etc. when it's just you three. Well, we could have more of those on this channel if people like live streams.
that's right. Tell us if you like it. Future people watching, tell us if you like lives. The people in the future who are watching this not live, let us know if you want lives.
Yes.
Also, check out Gamers Unbeaten tomorrow because we're gonna be streaming Elden Ring. It'll be so much fun. Lots of dying and crying.
Code Monkey gave $5 and said, "Do you think Russia's adoption of the Chinese yuan to ruble as the default benchmark exchange rate will help or hurt the China CCP?" I think essentially this is good for the CCP and bad for Russia.
Yeah, I think Russia is more and more dependent on the Chinese Communist Party now. It used to be, I think, more the relationship used to be more on equal footing, but at this point, I think China of the North Korea, Russia, China thing, China is definitely the one in charge, pulling the strings. Shifting Signs gave a super chat, thank you, and says the CCP is acting like pirates, which I can only assume is a reference to what happened Monday in the South China Sea, where the Chinese Coast Guard literally came running, like, well, not running, boating up to
Running. Yeah.
Kung Fu Hustle. Like they had axes and knives and were like
It's
puncturing Filipino
crazy.
boats.
The Filipino Armed Forces released this video, and it's like a skirmish, but everybody is on a small boat.
Yeah, it was like the border of China and India, that fight a couple years ago where they were fighting with like bats with knives with nails
Nails.
stuck in
Yeah.
between
But it was the Chinese
on
Coast
boats.
Guard people. Like there's this guy brandishing an axe.
Yeah.
And then the Philippines military were like, we fought back with our bare hands. Like they were unarmed essentially.
Yeah.
And so then they also showed a bunch of like photos of like equipment that was smashed by the Chinese Coast Guard. Like they're really essentially trying to stop the Philippines from resupplying this base that they have on the Second Thomas Shoal, which is within the Philippines exclusive economic zone. Uh, and they have this kind of rusted hulk of a World War II boat called the Sierra Madre that many years ago they ran aground, and there are Filipino Marines that live on this boat to kind of preserve the Philippines' claim to this territory. But the CCP has, over the last year or so, become more and more aggressive in trying to stop the Philippines from resupplying the boat, trying to stop them from getting food to the people on that shoal, trying to stop them from doing any repairs to that ship. They're hoping it just disintegrates. And then, the CCP can move in and take over the area. So it's a pretty fraught, and they're really trying to push the envelope in terms of how violent they can get, right? And
Yeah.
I think the interesting thing is that the after this incident happened, the U.S. State Department essentially released a statement where they uh, basically reminded China that the U.S. and the Philippines have a mutual defense treaty that does cover, the South China Sea. It doesn't only cover the CCP attacking the main islands of the Philippines. If they attack Filipino territory or if they attack Filipino sailors or Coast Guard, that counts as something like the U.S. would get involved in.
Yeah. And the great thing about what the Philippines is doing is by filming all of this and getting it out there, it destroys any Chinese Communist counter narratives. Like the Chinese Communist Party said, "Oh no, it was the Philippines that rammed a Chinese ship that was just sailing normally." And it's like well, there's footage. You can tell that that's just BS.
The
It's
guy didn't
bunk.
start waving the axe around until he was attacked first. Yeah,
Yeah,
like it's just uh they really are trying to win the narrative war, and the Philippines are essentially turning that against them. So.
But they're also getting like really into this gray zone warfare. Like, if they fired shots, like guns at the Filipino Marines, like obviously that's
Yeah, I think
that
everybody
that
was
that
Coast
that
Guard in a
triggers
sense,
the
but yeah,
red line, you know.
yeah.
But sorry, Coast Guard. But like, do you like? Is it an act of war if they use spears and knives and axes to like puncture a boat? Like it's getting really close. It's really close. You're like, how much closer can they get?
I
But
think some guy got his
He lost a
thumb
thumb.
was severed. So yeah.
Yeah, it's getting there.
I would. I mean, so what's a reciprocity for that? Is it kind of fun of Xi Jinping's thumbs?
Let's move on to the next chat.
Shifting sides, just say that the CCP's actions against the Philippines is really unifying Filipinos.
That's great because
Yeah.
there was a time when it seemed like there were people in the Philippines who wanted to move away from the U.S. and closer to China. I don't think that's a thing anymore. Nightmare gave $5, and he likes your mustache, Matt. And
Thank
thanks for
you.
the hard work that we're doing. Thank you. Oh gosh, my chat's going crazy.
Grateful Dead gave $2 and said the
Yes.
Lord's lettuce is cannabis.
Thank you. I figured it out. I figured it out. I'm smart.
I thought you were just kidding when you were like,
I didn't know, but then I figured it out.
okay.
Hey, quiet, Shelly. It's very important. I have to say this username. D's nuts gave a super chat. Thank you, and says sending love from the Philippines. We were just talking about you. We were just talking about these nuts, weren't we?
Yes.
Weren't we, Shelly? We're
Oh my
talking about
God.
these nuts.
Is it 1999? What is that?
1990 before then. Oh, Taylor. Yes, it's when I was talking about Xi Jinping falsifying his hairline. I was a little mean. I should apologize to Xi next time I see him when I do that interview. Slim Pickens gives $9.99, says the war in Ukraine is going poorly, making the invasion of Taiwan less palatable for the CCP. Where does China turn its eye? Vladivostok, India.
Apparently the Philippines.
Apparently the Philippines. Although I do remember we did have somebody on our podcast, China Unscripted, who said a war in the Himalayas on the China-India border might come before a Taiwan.
Was that person was Indian?
Probably. But the point he was making is like because it's so isolated up there, it would be much more difficult for the U.S. and other nations to come and assist, unlike with Taiwan.
Right. But
I
what
do also remember him saying that the Indian army is ready to face anything and they can do it themselves. Like,
A-
yeah.
and I do believe actually that the Indian army is probably better prepared for a war in the Himalayas than the PLA, just because of like mm, the way that the training goes and the way they basically had Indian soldiers acclimatized to that area.
They have Chinese soldiers acclimatized to the area too.
They do.
Yeah.
Um, but also I also have a feeling that Indian soldiers are more motivated to defend their homeland than Chinese soldiers are to push minor territorial ambitions by the CCP.
You don't think that just fires up the blood of the revolutionary spirit of the martyrs?
I
Only on the internet.
Only on the internet.
Not
It's
when it
very
comes to
easy to
actually
comment on the
fighting. Yeah.
internet.
Yeah.
I do hope that the Indian government sets up lots of cameras in the area to try to do what the Philippine Coast Guard has done and film everything.
Yeah, I'm sure they're taking notes. Like this is the thing. Like the somebody was talking about how the CCP is uniting all Filipinos. The CCP is uniting a lot of countries around the world against them.
It's
Right.
wonderful. It's
Like
touching.
India and the Philippines. Yeah.
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 Yeah. All kinds of different bilateral, multilateral relationships are forming, all about the CCP. It's pretty great. Guy Mullins gave $20. No question. Thank you.
So somebody saying Home Brian says the mic volumes are low. Are you guys hearing us okay?
Are you hearing us? Okay. Can you hear me? Shelly, what is it? What do they say? I'm still way up on the top of the chat.
Okay. Nikki Bobby says he can hear us
All
great.
right.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Great. Yeah, this is fun being able to answer your
Yes,
questions.
people can hear us
live.
just fine. Nice. Okay,
Great.
JW says volume low, but most people say it's all right.
Is the CCP selectively lowering the volume for some people? It'll be wild.
Okay. Are you up in the super chats? Because
Yeah, I'm trying to be.
Let me just post the Hong Kong
Yeah, because again, we're here
Lenin
to
Wall.
get people to sign the Hong Kong Lenin Wall. Oh, it would be great if the Chinese state-run media wrote something about us, being like, I don't know, anything. Maybe
Like,
I'm too desperate. Maybe they don't. Maybe they think I'm cringe and don't want to.
have you seen some of the propaganda that they've put out? I don't think the CCP is good judge of what's
They don't know
cringe.
the meaning of the word cringe.
I'm suddenly remembering the one where they were doing like some James Bond spoof. Do you
Oh
remember this?
yeah.
It was I think I'm
Oh God,
cringing
that
right
was
now
that was
thinking about it.
embarrassing.
It was
Ugh.
really bad.
Yeah, it's like, isn't it funny how the West criticizes China for spying when in fact they spy all the time? It's probably worse than that. Well, let me see. Let me get going.
Ibureg 2
Yeah.
gave $5 and said, "How committed are China and Vietnam to communist ideals?"
How committed is any communist to communist ideals? It's just a tool to get power, and once you have power, that's the point.
I mean, I do think that some people probably are true believers.
Some people are true believers. I don't think they last very long.
Uh, yeah. I mean, I think uh, how committed is the CCP to communist ideals? They don't seem to be giving it up anytime soon. I think this is one of the things
Good
that
point.
the West wants to kind of just smooth over the whole Marxist Leninist thing, right? We can do business. We're not that different. But it's their guiding ideology. It is in the Constitution. They are not, giving up that Marxist Leninist Xi Jinping thought for a new era. Blah blah.
I
Like it's
actually think
not.
Xi
Yeah.
Jinping himself is a hardcore Marxist. Like, I think he really believes in that sort of state control of everything. And, uh, maybe he doesn't want everyone to really be equal, but I think
Oh, I think
he
the whole.
wants to have a prosperous China
Okay,
under communism, under that
I
authoritarian
have a bone to pick about this because m- m- Marxist Leninism does not want everybody to be equal. Like this is one of the things that people uh say about communism that is just not true.
Yeah.
Like they do not want people to be equal. That is not what it's about. There are people who are oppressors and the people who are oppressed and the oppressors should all die. Like it is not about making people equal. Like if you read there's like a Mao's speech where he talks about the people's what was it?
people's
People's democratic
democratic dictatorship.
dictatorship. And he talks about how he's setting up the People's Democratic Dictatorship in China under the CCP. And he talks about, how the people's like, how can it be democratic, right? And he talks about the importance of having this democratic dictatorship. And then he spells out everybody who's not the people, right?
Yeah.
So it's like the people are the people, except rightists, counter revolutionaries, running dogs for like the West, running dogs for the West. So there's like a whole long list of people who aren't really people. They're not the people. So when you hear this whole thing about communists want people to be equal, that's not true at all.
Imagine.
Oh, sorry, I just had to get that off my chest because you
That's
said the thing about people being equal, and I think that's one of the.
No, I'm glad you said that, Shelley. Matt needed to be put in his place. It was a stupid
I, I,
comment.
I'm saying that
He
Xi
was
Jinping doesn't want people to be equal.
But I think like the premise
But you're
was
right.
that communists want people to be equal.
Right. Xi Jinping does not, but that makes it work as a Marxist. Um, all right. David A contributed.
Oh wait, hold on.
What?
We it's been a long time since we read one of our favorite posts on the Lenin Wall. Let's go back to that. Let's read one of those. We'll still get to your super chats, but let's pick one and read live.
Okay, well, one of my favorites is our daughter will know a free Hong Kong. And I feel like I like that one because it's about how, things might look bad now, but there's hope in the next generation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also, there's about like 50 or maybe a few hundred different takes on CCP as asshole. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, that guy. CCP is asshole.
Yeah, it was like Donald Trump, don't trust CCP.
Oh yeah.
CCP is that. Yeah,
If
there's
only people would listen to that guy. I wonder where he is. Could we get him on the show?
He was in Hong Kong, so
Oh, yeah.
yeah, that was during one of the big like parade protests. I don't remember if it was like the 2 million person one or it was like one of the protests where somebody was interviewing him and he said that line that became an instant meme.
Yeah, that was great. Manny Kaila gives $5, says, what the CCP's relationship with Iran? How is China's relationship with Persia since ancient times? Well, this, like I was saying earlier with Russia and North Korea, China is doing a lot to prop up Iran. It buys most of its oil. This is the case where if the problem of the Chinese Communist Party were solved, so many other things in the world would get better because it's like the spider at the center of a spider web, controlling everything. Has anyone ever used spiders and spider webs as a metaphor before? It's really good.
You might be the only
I
one.
think you saw it here first live. David says, talked about the influx of Chinese nationals buying U.S. real estate and the implications. I'm from Southern California a couple of years ago. I think they're targeting the area. Great job, you guys. Now, this is interesting because as far as I am aware, Chinese nationals own very, very little of U.S. real estate. There have been some very highly publicized cases of buying land near U.S. military bases, which is obviously a concern. What was the part I was going to make about that? What since you're talking about in Southern California, I think one of the more interesting things that I remember we covered is that with the legalization of the Lord's lettuce, a lot of those farms were being controlled and run by China and Chinese nationals. And so this is the case where it
Well,
doesn't.
I think a lot of the problem is that a lot of illegal grows.
Yeah,
So it's not like legal grows, but the fact that then it becomes hard for authorities to tell what's legal or illegal. There's like they're setting up these illegal grows everywhere from in the suburbs of Colorado, like in basements in suburban houses in Colorado, to these really remote farm areas of California where there may not even be a robust police force. There's just like one sheriff and five, like state police or something like that. They're trying to like cover this whole area. And then there are these illegal grows where they're enslaving people and it's really shady.
yeah. There's so much. Chinese Communist Party is involved in so much human trafficking. But so the point is, I think there are bigger ways, bigger threats from the CCP than just buying U.S. real estate. Oh no, now here's one that gives me an opportunity to make everyone mad. JW asks, was Donald Trump as tough on China and Joe Biden as weak on China as is commonly believed? It disappeared just as I said that. Wow. Fascinating. Uh, I would say Trump was probably the toughest on China, and Joe Biden is the second toughest president we've had on China. So now everyone is probably mad at me. But yeah, Joe Biden carried on a lot of the Trump era policies and sanctions, particularly on Hong Kong. He's repeatedly said he would defend Taiwan. He's called Xi Jinping a dictator. I think there are some fundamental problems with the Biden administration's take on China, which we've talked about a lot on the show, that they don't see it as an ideological battle between a Marxist-Leninist state. But the thing to keep in mind is the bar is very low for the U.S. presidents being tough on China. Trump was really kind of the first, and I still think there was like way more that he could have done. But I mean, we are living in a different world now because after COVID, I think the Hong Kong protests really got a lot of people riled up about the Chinese Communist Party, and then COVID happened. So I think just in general, the American people are more amped up against the Chinese Communist Party. I'll take it in my mouth. Doubting Thomas, we're getting some biblical references. You guys are good. You read the Bible. Says, how much does old money like children and inherited junk shopping still affect CCP politics? Great question. So that's sort of called like this red aristocracy in China, or the princelings. These are the sons and daughters of the revolutionary elite of China, the ones who were involved in the actual takeover, as opposed to somebody like Hu Jintao, who kind of rose up through like the Red Guard ranks. So there is despite being a communist society, there is this aristocracy based on these families who have a lot of power behind the scenes. And so we've kind of talked on some of our general hostilities episodes, which we haven't done in a while, um, about sort of this dynamic between Xi Jinping and this red aristocracy, Zheng Jinhong. Ah, it's a good one right. I wonder if David Michael White posted this. So this is the best post on the wall.
I figured this was probably a Babylon 5 reference.
It is a
Yeah.
Babylon 5
Okay.
reference, which is why I love it. We are gray. We stand between the darkness and the light. Babylon 5, my favorite show.
So I believe this was actually posted during it's one of the latest posts on the wall, so I think it was posted during the live stream.
Oh, okay.
So this person is doubly, if you posted this, take credit for it in the live stream chat.
Yeah, because, man, Babylon 5, I think about that show almost as much as I think about the Roman Empire.
Would you say that Babylon 5 is your Roman Empire, or?
In that I would die for it? Yes, Shelley.
Okay. Wait, how far back did you go? And I feel like I've lost some super chats.
Yeah, I think that they do time expire. If we miss your super chat, I'm sorry, but thank you very much for contributing. We're doing our best to keep up.
I see Fish Ventura. Do you see Fish Ventura?
Fish Ventura.
Gave $4.99 and with some hippo stickers.
Nice, I like that.
Thank you.
I see.
Hip hip hooray.
Grateful Dead gave $2 and said, "Hey Matt, great to hear your voice, bud."
Guy Mullen says, "I
welcome.
think the world of you guys. You mean a lot to me and to those I share your portraits with on my Facebook page. I signed the Lennon Wall. Thank y'all. Thank you, Guy.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Mullins.
signing the Lennon Wall. We appreciate that. Do you see Dave M's post?
Oh, he says, if I create some pro-Taiwanese websites, how best can I use them? Promote letter writing campaigns for UN recognition, sharing YouTube channels like China Uncensored. Anyone in Congress following you? Thanks for your work. I think there are some people in Congress who do follow us. Actually, one of the projects I want to start on once we're kind of through this Lennon Wall thing is actually trying to get some legislation created and in front of the wonderful people in Congress. I love all of you. Sign my bills. Make me Supreme Chancellor. I love democracy.
I feel like this has gone off the rails in a different way than I was expecting. Siamin gave $2 and says, "Pol Pot greater than Mao. Hello from Cambodia."
In terms of body count? Body count means something different these days.
Yeah,
it actually is an interesting question. I think in many ways Mao was the ultimate communist, the platonic ideal of communist. He really understood what it was and how to manipulate the worst aspects of people to get them to fight each other while simultaneously giving him power.
Yeah, although as a percentage of his country's population, Pol Pot did kill way more people in Cambodia. I think he killed like a quarter of the population.
Well, we know somebody whose dad was like the only doctor to survive.
And I think he only survived because he literally like walked out of the hospital.
Yeah, and like swam across a river. And like to give you an idea of communist society, they were killing doctors.
Well,
we don't want any of them doctors around here.
I mean, I think what was it? People who wore glasses.
Yeah, anyone who wore glasses. I don't know if that was like his like, all right, we want to kill the intellectuals. How do we know if somebody's an intellectual? Well, they probably read a lot, so they would have glasses. Big brain intellectual move. Code Monkey. Oh, do you have more?
No.
Okay, Code Monkey gave $5. Said if the U.S. Navy escorted the Philippines Coast Guard to supplying Second Thomas Shoal with order to sink any ship that interferes, what would she do? I don't think the U.S. has done that, right? But I think that is a great way the U.S. and the Philippines could work together to kind of stand up.
I would like to see the U.S. Being present during some of the resupply missions of the Second Thomas Shoal.
The U.S. needs to upgrade the Sierra Madre. They need to pimp that ride and make it a reality TV show.
You know what? I think I saw something about
That
this in
actually,
the
it's a cool
Financial
idea.
Times.
Yeah, seen it live.
Pimp my ship.
Pimp my ship, she.
Um, there was okay. The Financial Times has published an article today that said Philippines secretly reinforces ship
I mean, it's
at
an old
center
rust
of
bucket.
South China Sea dispute. So I like how it's like they did it in secret, and now the Financial Times is publishing this information. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Well, I I like it because firstly, the CCP is going to warn the U.S. that they had absolutely better not do it, right?
Hmm.
Which is, if you can read this correctly, which should be easy, it means do it.
Yeah,
Uh,
as you said.
and so they also will be way more reluctant to attack the U.S. because they don't see the U.S. as being as weak as the Philippines. I actually think the Philippines is much stronger than the CCP realizes, but it's their perception of it,
They've gotten away
which
with
is
bullying
they-
their neighbors for a long
and
time.
bullies typically like to pick on the weakest kid in school, and so or who they perceive as being the weakest. So as long as they perceive the Philippines as being weak, they'll pick on it. If they don't perceive the U.S. as being weak, they're less likely to pick on the U.S. But again, like there's also they're wrong because the Philippines is much smarter, I would say, than the CCP gives them credit for, and quite a bit stronger.
Yeah, I think this Financial Times article says that the U.S. military has drafted some options of how to help the Philippines with this whole situation. It says U.S. Indo-Pacific Command last year proposed sending Army engineers to bolster the ship, according to several people, but the proposal was rejected because some officials viewed it as too risky and because Manila wanted to handle the situation.
The
So,
second part is a legitimate reason,
yeah.
but make it a Gundam.
Um, uh, uh,
The Chinese Coast Guard gets close and the Sierra Madre turns into
well,
a Gundam. That's escalate that.
Okay.
Uh-huh. Yes. Oh, David White gave $5. Said this is for student debt forgiveness. Thank you. Thank you, David White. I
is
owe
this
you
a
a
joke
Patreon
that I don't understand?
massive student loan debt. Scrolling. I think YouTube is leaving me. Grateful Dead says, Shelly, how are you? How are you, Shelly? I never ask you how you're doing.
I'm really tired, but otherwise okay.
Always complaining.
Always complaining.
Always complaining.
I mean, we've been working pretty hard on this Lennon Wall thing.
We have been. And, well, I could tease the next project idea, that we want to make a newsletter. Yeah, I can drop that. I'll drop that.
I mean, you already dropped.
I know, but like I can give more details. I'm in charge here. Don't tell me what to do. Thank you for agreeing with me, sir. Uh, yeah. So we have been struggling with the issue of YouTube not notifying a lot more people that we have new episodes, and I think what YouTube is doing is if they do this thing. This is my suspicion, where they don't notify people about new episodes, and then they're like, "Oh, all these subscribers aren't watching. Let's unsubscribe them." I think that's why we've been seeing a surge in sudden unsubscribe and people being like, "Wait, I was subscribed to this channel. What happened? I'm secretly unsubscribed." So we want to create a newsletter that can actually give you guys the notifications of new episodes, keep you up to date on things, help you make sure you're still subscribed. Everyone watching, please make sure you're still subscribed and sign the Hong Kong Lennon Wall. Post it. Yeah, Shelly.
For people watching later who are not going to see the live chat, it is in the description. It is the first link in the description to this episode, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Good instincts, Shelly.
Yes, Code Monkey says Substack. We are looking at Substack. So the idea is to have like a free weekly newsletter that would essentially give you the links to all the episodes that we've published that week that you probably haven't seen because YouTube has not given you the notification.
I think it would be for all of our channels.
Yeah. So
one-stop shop. Whimsical stories by AI. Okay, if Biden gets elected, we will live in a world like Fallout or Idiocracy. I love both of those properties, so you've got me sold. Can China survive CCP much longer? Future has branches, I fear. Oh, that's like Dune. I see the paths. stretching out before me. There's only one narrow way for
Are we
us through.
heading towards Fallout or heading towards
I was
Idiocracy?
just thinking about
Or
like
the
a
giant space worm.
Fallout's Idiocracy mashup. What would that look like?
It'd probably be that system in one of the settlements in the wasteland. Just people would be a lot dirtier. Hollywood, I know you're watching. Make that. Make
Okay.
that a reality.
So some cool information about the so other people. Caroline says we're soft too.
Oh,
Hmm. So some interesting information about the Lenin Wall. We've had people from like more than let's see, over 64 countries.
there are that many countries?
I think there are many more countries than that, Chris. But
Really?
yeah.
When?
So some of them, Africa's not a country, but Bangladesh, Czechia, Denmark, Dubai, England, Estonia, France. We had a lot from the Czech Republic, actually. Uh, Niger, New Zealand, Netherlands, mainland China,
What? I hope you're using a VPN.
several from Lithuania. And we know this only if you write where you're from. We cannot track it. So again, these are people who have volunteered where they're from. This one I'm going to guess is a joke. It says North Korea.
They don't have internet in North Korea.
Maybe it's Kim. Hi, Kim, if you're watching. I'd love to do like the interview.
There are a bunch.
Just the first half though, not the part where you blow up.
There are a bunch of people who posted from Poland that I saw. The Philippines, lots
Yeah.
of the Philippines.
I
Yeah.
liked when we went. The Philippines was one of my most favorite trips that we made.
It was a great trip.
It was a good trip. I love going to Hong Kong too.
We
Great
can't.
food. Could do without the tear gas next time. Pepper spray also is not fun.
Tear gas or pepper spray?
Both.
No, which is your least favorite?
I feel like the tear gas because I didn't actually get pepper spray in my eyes, so I can't have that experience. I did breathe in tear gas. Also, and I didn't know this at the time, but tear gas it actually like burns your skin too. It's not just like oh you have a mask on and then you're fine and you can just kind of like.
Oh yeah,
walk
I saw some people who didn't have masks at all. Like I remember just seeing this like Hong Kong guy wearing like shorts and flip-flops walking down the street, and then like the tear gas started, and then he just had a towel around his neck. And
around.
he just put it over his like mouth and nose and kept going.
I'm just imagining like an old Hong Kong guy with like the Beijing bikini,
Oh
his
no, it
wedge
wasn't.
rolled up, sandals,
This
smoking a
is
cigarette in the
young
tear
guy.
gas.
No Beijing bikini. I don't think they have Beijing bikinis in Hong Kong. But
A Canton
speaking of
bikini.
Hong Kong, I enjoy this Lenin Wall post that says, "You know you effed up when we prefer our former colonizer."
Yeah,
That's
that
true.
was the wild
People
thing.
were flying the British Hong Kong flag during some of the protests. Like
Yeah.
it was definitely like the CCP is the worst choice.
I mean, for most of British rule, it was not a democracy.
No.
I don't think it ever really was.
Kind of in the 90s, Lord Patten as governor had pushed some democratic reforms to make it more democratic as sort of this like, then China won't be able to change that so easily. And he did succeed, but not for as long as perhaps he had hoped.
Grateful Dead gave $2 and is asking, why is Matt so quiet? Speak up, bud. I'm just wondering. I was just
You're looking
I
at
was just trying to see
my
your
mic?
mic placement.
All right.
We're getting so excited with this live. We're all over the place. Again, let us know if you want us to do more lives.
Hey, this is another Hong Kong Lenin
yeah.
Wall post that I enjoyed. Don't buy products made by a godless, ruthless, oppressive regime.
I like that.
Did you guys see that SNL skit that they did? That was like the Shimu spoof where it was like when Jake Gyllenhaal was on SNL, and it was basically this Timu ad about how cheap the clothes are, except then they start disintegrating, and then there's like this joke about happy workers, and then he was like, no prisoners, and Jake Gyllenhaal is like, why do you say that? It almost sounds like there were prisoners, and then he takes a note out of his pocket, and he was like, I found a note in my, and then like someone grabs it, like a gloved hand comes out and grabs it, is like, that is note from
I was
happy
surprised.
worker.
SNL really nailed that. I'd like to think maybe they saw our episode about
Timu. Yeah. I mean, but like the thing was that in the end they were like, is this shady?
Yeah.
And then the voice goes, if it was, would you stop buying? And everybody's like,
I know.
no.
I mean, like I have friends who like from me they know they still shop on Temu.
You are giving all of your data to the CZ. It's so bad.
If the prices are really cheap, there is a catch. You just may not know what the catch is yet. And I'm not saying I know what the catch is necessarily either. I got an ad on Facebook for like it was like it appeared to be from Untuck It. They make like men's shirts,
Hmm.
and it was like 93% off. You could get like a shirt that should be like $100, but for like $6.99. And I was like, this if it seems too good to be true, it's probably a scam. And
Are you saying you're a scam, Matt?
I thanks.
I now I'm completely distracted, but what I was going to say is I read this Wall Street Journal. Was it Wall Street Journal? There was an article today about how social media influencers are having a hard time making it as like essentially making a living out of being a social media influencer or a YouTuber or whatever. And what I didn't realize that was in this article is that TikTok had a $1 billion fund that they were using to pay people to be influencers on on TikTok.
That makes
$1
so much
billion,
sense.
right? And so you think about how TikTok took over and became like the main social media that younger people use. It's like it was a brilliant strategy bankrolled by a lot of money
By the
like a
Chinese government,
company that is
right?
backed by the CCP, like yeah, it's
That's the
real.
Chinese state being like, let's give these people money. That's insane
It is really insane. And so
and
now
brilliant.
they stopped, like the fund's done, right? So now all these people who risked their livelihoods, essentially staked their livelihoods on being TikTokers, are not making enough money to make it to
Right.
survive.
And
This is what happens.
they probably are so dependent on TikTok that they're upset and they want TikTok to stay,
Right,
right?
Yeah.
So
exactly.
then they're propagandizing for the CCP anyway, like, we need to keep TikTok.
Yep.
They sold their soul.
I mean, so
Yeah.
anyway, don't buy stuff from Temu. It's
Yeah.
not a good idea.
That's the short of it.
Uh,
Dexter's Lure Lab. Oh,
I don't know if I want to read this out loud, but now I have this mental image in my head.
you don't just because you read something doesn't mean you have to put that mental image in mind.
Sorry.
I have to say, Xi, Putin, and Kim Menage a Trois. I have no idea what that. I can pronounce it perfectly, but I don't know.
Eh,
Dexter's Lure Lab gave $10 and said, "Chris, would you be on Dr. Drew's YouTube podcast?" Uh, if he offered to have me on, I don't see why not. If he wanted to talk China,
Does Dr. Drew want to talk China?
I don't know. Does Dr. Drew? Are you watching? Do you want to talk China with me? If so, please. Oh, whoops! I pressed something.
Oh, hey, this Hong Kong Lennon Wall thing. Hi from the Netherlands.
No,
Stay free.
we know that there's somebody from the Netherlands.
Yeah,
I just want
Rembrandt.
to know.
Here's
Yeah,
a
that was
comment they
definitely
like from Jacob M from Oklahoma. It says, "Free Hong Kong and may China allow South Park again."
That'd be good. I'm still thinking
yeah.
about Babylon 5 from that one.
Yeah, that was actually
That was
I
great.
don't know anything about Babylon 5, but like there are enough hints in that note for me to think this is probably Babylon 5 and show it to you.
Yeah.
So they did
Yeah.
good.
That was well done.
I
Yeah.
remember when we were in Hong Kong in 2019, there was a South Park episode we wanted to watch that referenced like I think they were like the episode was about putting there was something about jail in China and then like Mickey Mouse was there or something.
Something about putting
Yeah,
jail
what
in
was it?
China.
Because
This
what's his face ends up going to China to try to sell marijuana to a billion
Lord's
people.
Lettuce.
it
Something
was
I've
yes, the
always known.
integrity thing.
The
Yes.
integrity, yeah.
Integrity
But anyway, the
Farms.
point is we use Surfshark, which is a VPN that sponsors our show, and we use that to watch South Park
Because we
because we couldn't access it
that,
in
that
Hong Kong.
episode in Hong Kong. Mankind Manny, I'm sorry, I'm going to say this wrong. Kayla gave 5 years and said, "What's Singapore's relation to the CCP? Majority of Singapore people are ethnic Chinese."
Well, you know the CEO of TikTok is Singaporean.
Singapore has a fairly close relationship with the CCP. They're a different brand of authoritarian. They're
They still
not.
have canings there.
I'm not sure about that.
Singapore is more fascist, and CCP is obviously like communist, Marxist, Leninist.
Is there a difference?
Ye-
That's something that
their ideological approach to authoritarianism is different.
why? Like fascism, it came from the Italian fasciste, which is a bunch of sticks bundled together, and the idea was that all together we can't break.
I do think that there is a difference in the sense that, and I believe, Matt, you've made this point before, right? Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, like, well, okay, so the authoritarianism, there's sort of um, mm, right-leaning authoritarianism and left-leaning, and I think Singapore is more right-leaning. And the difference historically has been that if you look at these authoritarian regimes, which ones have been able to reform and become more democratic? No communist country has ever been able to do that. But some of the uh, more fascist, but I'm using this in the term of right leaning. So not Singapore yet, but Taiwan, Spain. There are some other examples. Italy have gone from that type of fascism and been able to implement democratic reforms over time.
I kind of see what you're
Which
saying.
is to
Like,
say that this is not at all a support of authoritarianism of any kind. I'm
Matt
only
is not a
saying that
fascist.
I am not a fascist,
I
but
love democracy.
but the fascism is very bad in my opinion. Communism is the worst possible part of authoritarianism because not only does it do all the terrible things, but it also, because of its ideology, is essentially unable to ever reform or share power. There's no historical
A lot
example
of
of it.
post-communist countries are still really messed up in
Yeah.
a lot of ways.
So I think now I kind of agree and kind of still disagree with you, Matt. Now, like on the one hand, I think like Mussolini and his whole creation of fascism, it's basically just communism with different labeling. However, I do think there is a difference between just like a dictatorship and specifically a country ruled by the communist ideology.
Right. So, and I think Singapore is more of a dictatorship than it is a communist country.
Yeah, there's something really corrosive and insidious about communism that makes it different from other things.
Yes. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you for asking.
Got another good one?
Mane Kaila.
David White gave another one. Thank you, David. If we are still alive to witness the CCP vanish from power, what are the odds that another criminal organization will take charge? That's kind of like what we were just talking about with post-communist countries. The issue a lot of times is systemic corruption and former party officials hanging around after the fact.
Right. I mean, part of the problem with communism that we've seen, like in the Soviet Union, why is the Russian Federation so corrupt? Why is a former KGB head now the president for life? It it's because I think two factors. One is um, when you have communism for many generations, you lose the sort of genetic memory, so to speak, of how to be in a free society. I think it's that plus, uh, after the fall of the Soviet Union, for example, there was no Nuremberg trials for communism. And so a lot of those people who were successful communists, so to speak, or within that power structure, were able to get away with it. And then they became part of the new regime. And so what China needs after the fall of the CCP is to have an equivalent of the Nuremberg trials, or the crimes of communism under the CCP are really brought to light internationally and within China. And the people who've committed those crimes uh, have no chance of being involved in the political structure of the new China.
Give me liberty. Hello, thank you. I acknowledge you. is what you asked. We should probably start to think about heading towards our conclusion. But to sum up the point of all of this, please, we have created this Hong Kong digital Hong Kong Lennon wall. Shelley will be posting the link in the chat. Once again, if you're watching this in the future, it'll be in the description. We're trying to get 10,000 posts by the end of June. This is a great way. This really means a lot to a lot of people in Hong Kong. We've heard from people who in Hong Kong who really appreciate this. It's a great opportunity to just make the CCP understand that they can't get away with what they're doing to Hong Kong. The people are paying attention. Do we have any other final thoughts, conclusions? Yes.
Are we ending it now?
Well, we're headed there, so that's why I'm saying, like, we can.
I don't think I want this to be the last one I read, but
Okay.
Kager at my place the day the CCP falls. Freedom is priceless.
Oh,
Ben from Columbus, Nebraska, USA.
I think there will be a lot of Kagers going on all over the world. It'll be like at the end of Return of the Jedi, where there's all the fireworks going off and there's the Ewoks.
I was gonna say, are there little teddy bears?
Oh yeah.
But yeah, in Ben's backyard, specifically in Nebraska.
I'm going to Nebraska.
Ooh. Cornfields. All right. Well, I think. Oh, Dennis got one in here. Thank you for the $10. I think the U.S. needs to set things up a bit more assertively with its allies, and want to be allies like India. Yeah, I think there just needs to be a lot stronger of a stance. And the U.S. is in an election year. It'll be very interesting. Usually, this is a time when they have to get a little tougher on China because of the polls. Hopefully, in 2025. Made in China 2025. That's a whole other thing. Hopefully in 2025, things will continue to go on a good route. I should also point out, because we don't have a studio tech, Matt has just had to get up and is making the long walk to the computer to be able to turn off this live stream.
We should have asked Matt if he had any final thoughts before he had.
I mean, I did say, hey, final thoughts.
Here's a nice one from Alex Singh from India. Democracy might not be perfect, but it is better than dictatorship.
That is true, unless I were in charge for life.
Well, see, Chris, this is a warning for you. All despots die, all autocracies fail. Hong Kong will soon be free. Dave from South Africa.
If you throw a coin enough times, Shelley, sometimes it will land on its edge.
What is that from?
My Brain.
Okay.
Or possibly Legacy of Kain.
Okay. Truth and love must prevail over lies and hatred. Václav Havel, anonymous from Czechia.
Good. What? Oh, this one? Yes, this is a good one. Freedom is the right of all sentient beings. Optimus Prime. Optimus Prime, I'm a big fan. Thank you for watching and for signing the Lennon Wall. Please send me an email. I would love to get in touch with you. Definitely not a Decepticon fan. Autobots all the way. Yes, and in case you're interested, tomorrow at 4:00 p.m., we'll be streaming Elden Ring on our other channel, Gamers Unbeaten. We've got our thumbs and lots of pies. Tasting pies all the time. That's what we do. It's past my bedtime. Thank you for watching.
I'm sorry, I had to.
Well, yeah, all right. This is good. Can I pronounce these things? Hong Kong is Skibbity and Sigma, and the CCP is a beta who doesn't Mog-E?
The last one is I don't know that one.
Anyways, I agree with the sentiment.
This is the future. These are the people of the future. This is Gen Alpha slang.
Yes. I am confident to put my lives in your hand. I'm out of water. I'm choking. Good. Thank you. I'm Chris Chappell. Good night. Shelley, say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Matt, shout goodbye.